Welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Legacy Podcast. I'm your host, Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for listening and thank you for helping me be on purpose. All right, guys. So, as you know, we always talk here about estate planning, legacy, and how you go about basically protecting your assets, all that good stuff. Today, I want to talk about the emotional side of estate planning, right? Understanding the emotional fears, because a lot of people have fears around this area, and understandably so. Estate planning, if you don't know, is when people make a plan for what happens to their things, their money, and their family in the event that they die, right? That's part of it. The other part of it is planning for the rest of your life as well. However, primarily the ultimate goal is to make sure if you die that we know what happens with your stuff, you know what happens, your family's protected, your family's secure. And so because it sort of is surrounds death and is connected to death, it could be scary for some people to think about death. It's challenging to think about your own mortality and to know that one day, no matter what we do, no matter how we slice it, right, death is always certain. We just hope that we can have, as long as a life, as healthy as a life, as happy of a life that we can, but death is definitely certain. So it makes sense to really plan around it. And I wanted to tackle some of the fears and concerns around estate planning because that is one of the major things that keep people from taking action, right? The fears that's around it, the stigmas around it. So let's really sort of get into it so we can help people avoid the issues that happen when they try to avoid estate planning, right? So one of the fears is, of course, fear of dying, right? It's the end of one's life. It's difficult to confront the fear of dying, but I think the more education we have around the fear of dying, the better it is, right? So I was reading a book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. And in the book, he talks about the fact that, say you had a goldfish and you named the goldfish John and you made all the stories about the goldfish's life. And then if the goldfish died, then you would be heartbroken, right? It would be super tragic to now have to come to terms with, oh my God, what's going to happen to their family, et cetera, et cetera, when we know already that goldfish don't even last that long, right? So that's just like a silly little story and analogy. But when you have no sort of identity attached to someone, like just a goldfish, and the goldfish dies, you're like, oh man, that's messed up. But it's inevitable. We know goldfish die, right? And I'm not saying that's how we should treat our lives. Absolutely not, right? Obviously, there's a lot more complexities and layers to our human lives. However, it's something that we cannot avoid. So just understanding more about it and actually preparing is something I think that we could do gradually without being morbid or just weird about it. We could do so gradually. We could live our lives in such a way knowing that, okay, we're not going to be here forever. So what are we going to get done? Like, how are we going to impact? How are we going to affect our loved ones? Like, what are the things that we're going to do to make a mark while we're here? Not focusing on death and end of life, but just preparing, like we prepare for everything. So like for me, from time to time, I do talks, educating people on estate planning, etc., and maybe some other things around asset protection. And I find that I'm so much more nervous when I'm not prepared, right? So when I'm like, I got this, I can wing it, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a while, I get a lot more nervous. But when I just take some time to conceptualize, what am I going to talk about? How is this going to go? Who's my audience and things like that? I'm so much more confident and comfortable. So that's the kind of power that you can have when you estate plan. Even though you have anxiety about death, you still can overcome that, a lot of it, by just putting a plan together. I know for me and my family, death has always been something that I was terrified about. And that's probably why God has me doing this, doing this practice area, because now I'm faced with it all the time. And I've become not numb to it at all. I'm very compassionate in terms of, if people pass away and, this whole entire process. But I am not afraid because I understand that it's a part of life. And I understand that when we plan, we can definitely overcome a lot of the issues that come with when a plan is not there. So for me, it gave me a lot of peace. It gave me a lot of comfort and confidence in knowing that I've done at least something and I've made some steps. And even though I'm not done living, God willing, right, I am prepared for as much as I can for right now where I am in my life. All right. So that's one, the emotional fear about dying. The next one is they don't want to talk about it because they don't want family conflicts, right? They don't want to be the ones, they or us or we don't want to be the ones to have these confrontations with family members where they don't like the decisions that we made, or they're upset by our point of view. And I get that too. Like, I'm not a confrontational person, so I totally understand. But it's important, I'm telling you, for you to have these conversations and deal with whatever the strife that comes at this time, and you still have an opportunity to, one, explain why you're doing the things that you're doing and repair these relationships while you're here, that's a really great opportunity. Whereas when you're gone, if your family members have these conflicts, it's oftentimes they can't be resolved because there's no closure, right? The person who was there holding it all together, or the person who was like at the center of this relationship, is not there. So they cannot have closure around the things that are going on. And it's just like people lose their minds when it comes to money and assets and things. And it may not even be the monetary value of it. It could just be the fact that they're either angry with each other, or it's the principle, or they don't have understanding as to why things are going down the way they're going down. So it is important to have these family conversations to avoid, family conflicts, right? That's one of the emotional fears when it comes to estate planning. Not want to talk about it. The third emotional fear when it comes to estate planning is the fear of talking about money. So a lot of families have fears around talking about money and finances and assets. Either those who are planning think they have too little, and they're kind of ashamed about it, that they don't want to sort of share all what they have going on, or they have a lot and they're like, oh, I don't want to let everybody know what I have going on because they're going to want money, or whatever the case is. Either way, it's not a valid reason, right? We need to get comfortable with talking about money. It's a fact of life. Like, it's part of everything that we do. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with talking about it. It's not taboo. It's not shameful or embarrassing, no matter where you are, because there's lessons to learn. And while you're still here, there's opportunities to tap into resources that can help you either build more, or can help you preserve what you have more, or whatever it is. There are options for every level and every, sort of every stage in life, is what I want to say. And so tapping into those options actually make it really better for yourself during your lifetime, and it also makes it better for your loved ones in the event that you pass away. So don't be shy about talking about money, and then tapping into resources in order to help you either save or protect, or just make sure that you have the right steps in place, and that your assets are going to last you, or that they're going to be able to be preserved for the ones that you're going to be leaving behind, right? And then the legal and financial aspects of estate planning can be really intimidating. So that's another fear that people have. They don't want to feel ignorant. They don't want to feel like they don't, have a good understanding, or that they're not smart enough, or that something's over their head. So because they get overwhelmed, then it's just like, okay, I can't talk about this because it's too overwhelming, it's too much. But understand, it's really not complicated. It's just that it's tied to language that we don't have in our everyday, right? So like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're doing a great thing, because you're really trying to understand how these concepts work together and what they really mean. But there are a lot of tools and resources out there to help you break down what it means. At its simplest form, it's putting a plan together for your stuff as it relates to your family, your loved ones, or whatever it is, in the event that you die. That is all that it is, right? And so, yes, there's different aspects of it, there's different parts, but it's not over anybody's head. There is a way to understand how these tools kind of go together, and they're really for your benefit. It's really just to protect you, one way or another. So those are the sort of 5 fears that I came up with around why people don't want to do estate planning. But I wanted to talk about some ways to sort of overcome that, which I kind of touched on a little bit, but let's go a little bit deeper into how you can overcome these fears. And I wanted to do this episode because a lot of people tell me, My family members, I understand why we need to have estate planning, and so, my loved one is getting an advanced age, and we see all these things that are happening, and we want to help them, but they don't want to listen. So I wanted to sort of like help give these type of this information to help you get some ideas about how to sort of break down these conversations. So these are some of the ways that we can overcome these fears and maybe have these conversations to help people understand how to deal with these challenges and emotions, or even speaking to the challenges and emotions, because sometimes people don't even know that they're experiencing them. They don't know that they're afraid about dying. They don't know that they're embarrassed about talking about money, or that they think it's something that should be kept a secret. They may not even know. So you're being empowered to know, and you can share with your loved ones, and you can share with other people. So let's get into how we can overcome. So seeking guidance from a trusted professional. So I happen to be one, but wherever you are, whatever state you are, there are professionals out there who know this information, who can help give you guidance. I mean, it's just gaining understanding, right? It's nothing other than that, gaining an understanding, having the conversation, and breaking down what particular things would help you meet your goals. That is it, right? So that's number one. And then starting the conversations, even though it could be stressful, even though it could be a situation where it's going to cause more strife and frustration within the family, start the conversations. Don't do it when people are angry or upset or hot and heavy already, or you might be having an argument about something else or bringing up other things. Try to keep it strictly about creating a plan, and keep it strictly related to just understanding the dynamics of that and the things that go into that. Try to make it as simple as possible, and then baby steps, right? Another thing is taking it step by step. You don't have to create a whole entire complicated multi-layer plan in one day. You can kind of just either start your conversation, and then next time build on it, and then next time build on it. And then if you get to the point where you're actually ready to put pen to paper, then start slowly, take it step by step, start gathering information so that you can put this, help to put a plan together, whether it be for yourself or if you're helping a loved one, through this, right? Another thing that I think is helpful for people to understand and help you to overcome some of these fears is that planning actually helps you take control, right, over your life and the different outcomes that we know are certain to happen. I like to express that to older folks, because sometimes they feel like planning is like, putting them in the ground early or whatever the case is. But it's more so like, what do you want? What do you want to see as the outcome of this amazing life that you lived, and these, wonderful things that you have created and amassed that can be a benefit and that is part of your legacy, right? We want you to actually decide what is it that you want, and you have a choice, and you should exercise that choice, right? It's your decision to make, so don't just leave it up to somebody else or leave it up to a court or whatever it is to make that decision for you. So to me, that's super empowering. Like, if somebody tells me, listen, you have a choice to make, and you want to be the one to make that choice versus somebody else making it for you, that makes me feel like, oh yeah, let me get my understanding and make my own decision as to what I want. I feel like that's empowering. And so that's probably something that could help. And then this is something that I thought would be helpful, but I know if you're having a hard time getting people to talk about estate planning or even consider opening up that conversation, it might be even harder to get them to think about therapy, right? Having some therapy sessions to figure out, okay, what are my issues around this? Why is it that I don't want to do this? And that's not a concept that therapy is not a concept that that everyone accepts, right? It's not even a healing process that many people accept. So that may be a challenging one, but I wanted to offer that as, a way, maybe talking to a counselor, or maybe like I would say like a spiritual leader, perhaps, who can kind of talk through these things and help to give some understanding to those who are hesitant about it. So I hope this was helpful for you. I wanted you to understand the process and the fact that estate planning really gives you peace of mind and security and predictability. And so all the emotional aspects that come with it, it's valid, right? Feelings are valid, and I understand it, but it's something that you can overcome just like anything else, just taking it step by step and really getting to understand the process and what goes into it. Education is power, right? And it definitely helps you to heal and get past any issues that you might have. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you or anybody else needs assistance with estate planning or with putting a plan together or having just preliminary conversations, please feel free to reach out to my firm, the Ambitious Legacy Firm. That's what we do. We do wills, trusts, we put together plans and structures and help individuals and families protect their assets. And if we are not licensed in the state where you are, then we'll be happy to tap you into our network and make sure you get the help that you need. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.